At the center of Heated Rivalry is the work of composer Peter, who crafted a soundtrack that feels both ethereal and deeply intentional. And the song It's You is easily the standout. It's been lodged in my brain and many others since the moment we first heard it in episode 2, and it's the only song on the soundtrack with lyrics and plays during one of the most significant moments in the story. This choice is deliberate and invites us as viewers into the inner thoughts and feelings of the characters in a way the score otherwise cannot. And while It's You might initially register as a song for Shane and Ilya, it ultimately reads to me as a specific window into Ilya's internal world. To me, the lyrics read like his thoughts and feelings in the overarching story as well as in the specific scene. The song starts with a question, where were you, where were you? And Shane and Ilya were never supposed to meet on paper. If not for hockey, their lives would have run parallel but never crossed. To Ilya, Shane feels improbable. They are opposites from such vastly different upbringings and backgrounds. They speak different languages, have different outlooks on life, and where Shane's life has been impossibly structured and predictable, Ilya has spent his whole life in flux. In the books, he says he'd spent his whole life drifting between continents and lovers, and it's implied that he would have always felt alone until he meets Shane. This lyric, being a question, feels like Ilya asking how and why he lived so long without him. He's been searching unconsciously for something and someone to make him feel seen and accepted again, especially when you think about the loss of his mother and how that would have left him essentially feeling alone and unlovable. So when he finds that feeling in Shane, it would scare him, but also make him want to hold on to it for dear life. The lyrics, please don't go, now please don't go, are affirming Ilya's core wound, which is pleading that Shane doesn't leave him. I find there are a number of parallels drawn here for both of them, but I think of the tuna melt scene where Ilya repeats the word go to Shane when he says, I should go. He has his hand held out, pleading, and it's a very unguarded line, which I feel is less about possession and more about Ilya's biggest fear of being alone. For his whole life, love has felt temporary and fleeting, and Please Don't Go is representative of Ilya trying to change that pattern and hold on to someone and something that he's never experienced before. Stay right here reinforces that fear of abandonment as well. If where were you implies that Ilya is asking essentially what took you so long, then please don't go, stay right here is his plea to the universe or some higher power or maybe even to his mother that Shane not leave him now that they've found one another. Ilya is the first of the two of them to verbally ask the other to stay in the tuna melt scene, but the first time Ilya wants to stay is when Shane kisses his forehead in episode 2. Shane in this scene offers Ilya an intimacy that isn't transactional, and he doesn't know how to reckon with that. The realization that he wants to stay and be held in a way that no one has ultimately done before scares him enough to leave. It would mean admitting that Shane matters in a way that would be devastating, and Ilya creates distance from that vulnerability. In the My Dinner with Hayden scene that Rachel wrote on her blog, Ilya actually reflects on this night and admits that he had been overly concerned with making it seem like it hadn't been a big deal. He had left as soon as possible after, afraid of what he might have said or done if he stayed even a minute longer, and admits that he had been hiding his heart back then. But in the stairwell with their kiss, it's made clear that both Ilya and Shane want to extend the moment a little longer than it's supposed to be. In the Vegas hotel room scene, the things Ilya wants and craves with Shane are no longer abstract concepts to him. He can admit to himself that he wants nothing more than to hold Shane and fall asleep together and have him stay in his bed all night and the entire next day, which is a feeling that goes far beyond lust. Wanting that is terrifying and dangerous, so instead he pushes Shane away again before the want becomes a need that he can't take back. In the tuna melt scene, Ilya voices his request that Shane stay, and he does momentarily agree, and that would elate Ilya, given that he had gone to great lengths to make the environment Shane was entering into that day primed for him to agree to stay. It takes him roughly 3 years to muster up the courage to ask Shane to stay, and then we watch it devastate him when Shane leaves, and then subsequently finds someone else so soon afterwards in Rose Landry. All of those micro moments lead to a breakthrough moment at the All-Star game in 2017, where the two of them are finally able to move the needle. In the book, Ilya asks Shane to stay after the hotel scene from episode 5, which we can infer takes place off camera. And in Shane's point of view, Shane admits that he loves that Ilya is asking him to stay, but he ultimately leaves the room again. That would be another moment where Ilya's fear and core belief of not being worth staying for or being difficult to love would probably come to light for him. In the hospital scene, Ilya reflects that he wanted to tell Shane that he would stay with him, move into his apartment, help him recover by making him sandwiches and watching the playoffs with him and reading his boring hockey book to him, but he knew in his heart that he couldn't. This desire to stay in this scene again is not sexual in nature at all. It's moving closer towards a real relationship and domesticity that Ilya knows he cannot provide, but allows himself to imagine for the first time. When Ilya agrees to go to the cottage and we find them there in the finale, Shane asks Ilya to be honest for the 2 weeks they are there together. And in the book, he cheats and murmurs in Russian, "I would stay here forever if I could." Because Russian is safer. It's hidden, but the ability to say it out loud is a huge step for Ilya. Despite the show removing that dialogue, I do feel the sentiment is still largely implied with the acting. After Shane and Ilya speak with Shane's parents, in the book they go back to the cottage and have a long talk about being together, and Ilya thinks to himself that he had been reeled in by this annoying Canadian, and all he knew was that he wanted to stay. He wanted to anchor himself to Shane and just stay. For someone who had been untethered his whole life, this desire to stay wouldn't feel like a loss of freedom anymore. It's more of an echo to the earlier sentiment of finding the person he's meant to be with and wishing to stay right there in the moment and in that feeling. In the book, this is when he suggests to Shane that he can extend his stay beyond the 2 weeks. The lyric, "Don't ever leave," comes after "Stay right here," and is again a reflection of Ilya's headspace in the first season of the show, in Heated Rivalry the book, and also well into the long game, where he is fearful of Shane leaving him. In the Vegas hotel room scene, Ilya does not want to leave the bed to get Shane vodka because he knows as soon as he does, this would be over, Shane would leave, and Ilya would be alone. In the book version of the scene, Ilya keeps his eyes closed so that he doesn't have to watch Shane walk out, and watching him leave would be confirmation of the belief he already has that he'll eventually be abandoned and is unworthy of being loved. At the end of the book, after Shane and Ilya talk to Shane's parents, they have a moment where Ilya is hit with the realization that this will be his life now, and he acknowledges that he would give up his life for a chance at something lasting with Shane. And that realization is immediately followed by the thought, "I love you so much, don't leave me." Because to Ilya, love and pain are linked, so that fear is always front and center. That core wound of feeling unlovable or unworthy of love is something that terrifies him because he's constantly fearing that Shane will realize Ilya is not worth the pain, struggle, and hardship of loving. He thinks to himself that Shane could find someone less complicated or easier to love, and it nearly broke him watching Shane with Rose Landry. In the All-Star bar scene, before Shane tells Ilya about hiring a stylist, Ilya thinks he's going to tell him, "I'm seeing someone, I'm engaged, I don't need you anymore." And so Ilya is bracing himself for that abandonment. That thought, paired with Connor Story's portrayal of Ilya in that scene, reveals just how deeply ingrained that fear is within Ilya. The chorus of "It's You," played over and over again, is so simple, and it strips all of the other scary thoughts away and down to what matters most to Ilya in this scene. It's a very ethereal sound that feels like floating or falling in love, and like the majority of the soundtrack, it blends sounds and notes we've already heard, but adds in these new layers to symbolize that the relationship is shifting into something we haven't yet seen or heard with them. It's a subtle nod to the more pointed notes in Heartbeat 1 and 2, and even in Two Souls. And for Ilya, love has never been simple, but this chorus makes it painfully clear that it can be this simple when it comes to Shane. This is him realizing in this moment that Ilya has feelings growing for Shane within him. The line, "What the hell are you? The hell are you?" is an interesting couple of lines in the song that reads differently from "Where were you?" But to me, it's the perfect representation of how Ilya feels that Shane was sent as a test. And in the Las Vegas remix scene on Rachel's blog, he wonders if Shane might have been sent as some sort of test from God, something Ilya was supposed to resist. For Ilya, it feels like a cruel twist of fate that it takes a rivalry of all things to find the one person he feels completed by. But I also think it's a broader way of stating that Ilya thinks he's figured Shane out easily when they first meet. He would think he understands Shane completely and can read him. He clocks his tells, his reactions, his soft spots, and he knows exactly how to push a button or pull a lever to get the response he wants out of him. Shane is open in a way that feels legible to Ilya, and on the surface that gives him a sense of control. And control has always been how Ilya survives intimacy. But he doesn't feel like he can survive Shane. He can't fully understand what the pull is within him when it comes to Shane. And throughout the book and the series and the many years of their relationship, Ilya actually can't figure out what it is about Shane that has such a hold over him. He would think, what's so different about you? What makes this different with you? Why do you set me on fire in a way no one else can? It's not until they push past their patterns and wounds that they can start to accept that they don't want the other person to leave. They don't want the other person to go, and they want them to stay. I think this song and these lyrics beautifully foreshadow how Shane and Ilya's story will play out after the scene it plays over in episode 2, and also foreshadows how their relationship will continue in season 2.